Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. You know, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by the idea of starting an academic research project, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going to demystify academic research by totally changing how we look at it. So, instead of picturing a messy, chaotic pile of books and data, I want you to think of research like constructing a building, step by step. We're going to put on our hard hats and act as the architects here, laying down a rock-solid foundation and building up a structure that is rigorous, reliable, and entirely your own.
Here's the roadmap we'll be following for our build today. Number 1, defining systematic inquiry. 2, crafting a good question. 3, mapping the existing literature. 4, worldviews and research design. And finally, 5, choosing your methods.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, defining systematic inquiry.
So, what actually is research? Well, it isn't just passively reading what other people have already figured out. It's an active process. It's about being a curious explorer who's methodically seeking answers to real-world issues. The goal here isn't just to summarize facts. The goal is to add a brand new, original idea, honestly, no matter how small it might seem, to the existing body of human knowledge. That is the magic of it.
Now, the absolutely crucial point is how we explore, and that is exactly where systematic inquiry comes into play. You see, a systematic approach guarantees consistency, meaning other people can actually replicate your work and check it. It ensures accuracy by seriously reducing errors and personal bias. It builds your credibility, making your findings genuinely trustworthy. And finally, it provides true insight, letting you see those deeper, hidden patterns rather than just skimming surface-level facts. A systematic approach is really the only reliable way to add new knowledge. Otherwise, we're kind of just relying on random guessing, right?
Moving on to Section 2, crafting a good question. Think of this as the framing structure for your building.
Take a look at this question for a second. Should students be banned from using TikTok during the school week? On the surface, I know, it sounds like a hot, trendy topic. But in academic research, this is actually a deeply flawed starting point. Why? Because it's prescriptive. It relies on a leading assumption that a ban is even necessary, which can literally shut down actual, objective exploration before you even begin.
This comparison perfectly illustrates the difference between an opinion-based dead end and a genuine academic inquiry. Look at how the improved question on the right totally shifts the perspective. How do students aged 14 to 18 describe the influence of social media on their study habits? See what happened there? It doesn't assume a ban is needed. It's exploratory. It actively invites the participants' perspectives. Plus, it scopes the project perfectly by targeting a very specific age group and a specific behavior, their study habits. It's a real game changer.
So, to summarize the key ingredients you're going to need for your own framing, a strong research question just has to be clear and focused. It needs to connect to real-world debates that actually matter. It must be researchable with the actual time and resources you have on hand. It should invite deep analysis rather than a simple yes or no answer. And it has to be balanced, not trying to solve all the world's problems at once, but not so incredibly narrow that there's nothing left to say.
Let's step into Section 3, mapping the existing literature. This is your intellectual scaffold.
I absolutely love this quote from authors Booth, Papaiono, and Sutton, because it completely reframes a process that a lot of people dread. They say, the literature review is not a formality. It is the intellectual scaffolding of the entire research design. That is so powerful. Tracing what is already known and actively sniffing out the gaps is a knowledge-generating process all on its own. It's where you figure out exactly how your specific voice is going to fit into this giant, ongoing academic conversation.
And just like there are different types of scaffolding for different types of buildings, there are different types of literature reviews depending on your goals. This table neatly demystifies a lot of that heavy academic jargon. If you want a broad thematic summary, you'd go with a narrative review. Need transparent, replicable rigor? You'd use a systematic review. What if you're looking at a brand new, emerging field? Well, a scoping review explores the breadth of what's out there. A meta-analysis actually combines quantitative statistics from multiple studies, while a realist review looks closely at how and why interventions work in very specific contexts. Your choice here depends entirely on your unique research question.
Next up, Section 4, worldviews and research design. Let's talk about translating all this into action.
Researcher John W. Creswell makes a great point. Building a research approach isn't just a bunch of random choices. It's a beautifully connected sequence. It starts right at step 1 with your philosophical worldview. That cascades directly into step 2, your overall research design, which finally dictates step 3, the specific research methods you're going to use. Let's break down that very first step because honestly, it's the one people overlook the most.
So, as a researcher, your underlying worldview dictates what you believe actually counts as knowledge. Think about that for a second. If you're a post-positivist, you value objective measurement and testing theories. If you lean more toward constructivism, you care deeply about the subjective meanings your participants hold. The transformative worldview aims straight for social change and justice. And pragmatism? Well, that focuses on whatever practical solutions work best to just solve the problem. Your worldview fundamentally shapes the entire design of your building.
And that brings us to our final stage, Section 5, Choosing Your Methods. It's time to select your tools.
Let's contrast these overarching designs so you can see how this works in practice. If your worldview led you to want to explore human experiences and cultural behaviors, you're going to choose a qualitative approach, utilizing designs like ethnography or a case study. If you want to test cause and effect relationships with hard numerical data, you're definitely going to choose a quantitative approach, like experimental research. And if your project demands a more holistic, complete understanding, you might use mixed methods, where you integrate both approaches either sequentially or at the exact same time.
Which brings us to the final, concrete tool choice. This is really about the difference between techniques used for generating meaning versus techniques used for measuring relationships. Qualitative methods are going to be your deep dive interviews, your detailed observations, and analyzing documents. Quantitative methods, on the other hand, those are your large-scale surveys, your standardized tests, and your precise numerical measurements.
But before you completely lock in your choices, I want you to run through this practical checklist to ensure your plan is rigorous but also actually realistic. Ask yourself, does the method match your specific research problem? Do you actually have the researcher experience to execute it? Like, if you chose quantitative, are you trained in high-level statistics? Does this approach meet the expectations of your supervisors or the journals you want to publish in? And maybe most importantly, do you realistically have the time and resources to pull the whole shebang off? By aligning your question, your literature, your worldview, and your methods, you aren't just doing a simple assignment anymore. You are systematically creating brand new knowledge. We've laid out the entire blueprint today. Now it's time for you to build. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to carry into your own work. How will your unique worldview shape the knowledge you create? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy researching!